Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So if you guys are unaware, Ranked Season 7 is scheduled to begin next week, Tuesday the 6th of December 2016. And this obviously being sort of a big thing, well, I'm sure a lot of people are preparing and getting ready to get the grind on, figuring out what champions they want to play, what the meta is, and exactly just what they're going to do once the season restarts and once everyone starts more or less from the beginning. So my goal is to release a few videos, kind of top lists to give you guys a better idea on which champions I feel like you should be playing for Season 7, whether it's the ones that I feel like are the best to one-trick, the easiest ones, or even the ones that are just the best at carrying. So for this video, we'll be going over the top 10 champions that have the most potential to just simply hard carry a game and solo carry their team. Now right before we jump into the actual list, this video will be made in collaboration with ProGuides, a name that's very familiar by now. It's a website that aims to improve your overall League of Legends gameplay, and with the new season starting very soon, right now is a pretty damn good time to try out their trial. I'll have a link down below. Definitely recommend checking them out. But with all of that out of the way, let's get right into the list. So starting things off in the number 10 spot, I am going to be talking about Lee Sin. Now Lee Sin, I have to say I'm pretty surprised as to how damn good he is at the very moment. I've been seeing quite a bit of Lee Sins. I've even been seeing Lee Sin bans, and whenever he goes into a game, well, most of them build more or less pure damage, maybe the first 3 or so items, and he can absolutely annihilate almost half the people in the game. On top of this, he's fantastic at clearing the new jungle. He's able to do that nice level 3 cheese jungle strat fairly easily. He has fantastic gank potential. He's got a lot of presence in the early game, which at the moment is extremely important for a jungler, and for the most part, he just offers exactly what you want from a jungler. Now I do feel like a Lee Sin with great impact in the early game and the amount of damage he can dish out building pure AD can without question hard carry a game and absolutely tilt the enemy off the face of the earth. But the reason he's all the way down in the number 10 spot is, well, he is fairly difficult to play, and you do require some serious game mechanics or knowledge to understand how to play the champion successfully, especially in higher elo. But regardless, Lee Sin is fantastic at the very moment. But moving down to the number 9 spot, we have Jase. Now Jase has been a renowned top laner for several patches now, and well, even now with Season 7 right around the corner, well, Jase is still insanely strong. The first blood tower is still a very important thing to get in. Jase is probably one of the best, if not the best, top laner when it comes to actually pushing in, split pushing, and just destroying towers, all thanks to his W, and for him just more or less being kind of an ADC hybrid champion. He's got a great laning phase, he's got fantastic poke, he scales quite well, and he just seems to fit the meta surprisingly well even now. You almost always build Jase as kind of a full armor penetration build, and now with lethality stacking up and actually scaling better into late game, well, he's not going to really fall off as hard as he used to. He's still going to be chunking for a lot of damage while still having his early to mid game prowess, just because of not only how many abilities he has, but just the raw damage he has in his kit. But just like Lee Sin, Jase is not the easiest of champions to just pick up and play successfully, so this is why he's also a little bit further down on the list, and on top of that, there's just simply better champions for sure. But let's not waste too much time and get right down to the number 8 spot, where I want to talk about Fizz. So ever since the assassin rework, there's been a lot of questions as to which assassins are just the stronger ones and which ones are the weaker ones. Well, of the smaller assassin changes, Fizz without question has to be one of the better changes. His laning phase isn't as bad as it used to be because, well, before, Fizz would have an insanely difficult time to CS under tower, but now with his new W and the way it works, not only is it just much easier to CS under tower with the active effect, but the burst damage on this thing is just absolutely ridiculous once you get the Lich Bane and just once you do your full combo. All in all, Fizz is just not maybe necessarily as insanely bursty, but he's just more well-rounded, he's better in more scenarios, and he can still, without question, if given the opportunity, absolutely chunk someone's HP again with that W Lich Bane combo. But sitting in lucky number 7, I want to talk about Twisted Fate. Now, I'm sure some of you are probably a little bit tired of hearing this name because in almost every kind of top 5 mid laners or top 5 carry champion lists, well, Twisted Fate always finds a way in there. But it's definitely for good reason. I've said this every single time I've brought Twisted Fate up, but he is literally designed for solo queue. This guy's ultimate is made to put around pressure. You don't even necessarily have to use your ultimate for the pressure to be applied, because the second you hit level 6, as long as the people you're facing are actually aware of what Twisted Fate even does, well, they're going to be playing with that in mind. The fact that, you know what, if they ever overextend or go in too far and your ultimate is ready to go, you can teleport right behind them instantly and turn the tide into your team's favor. He also scales, I guess, somewhat decently when you get, Lich Bane with his W combo. I mean, he has some fantastic wave clear with his Q. It does damage to every single target. There's no diminishing effects, and he's just a good champion when it comes for solo queue, even now all the way in Season 7. But let's move on to champion number 6, Hecarim, specifically in the jungle. Just like maybe Jase, Hecarim has been a very strong champion in their specific role for several patches now. Even after maybe receiving a nerf or two here or there, he is still good and he still finds his way to be among the best champions to choose from for a specific role. Currently, with the assassins just being somewhat popular, the answer to that usually are fairly tanky champions. Hecarim fits that quite well because what do you do on him? Well, you get Cinderhook, you get Triforce, which is your main damage item, and you go pure tank from there. Deadman, Spirit Vistas, Guardian's Angel, Randuins, you know, whatever you want. But the thing that makes Hecarim so insanely strong is not only can he wave through the jungle quite well, and not only is his ganking power pretty decent, especially once he hits level 6, he can still dish out an insane amount of damage while being insanely tanky, and with his great mobility, he can easily disrupt the backline and even probably kill them just because of how much damage he has and how tanky he can really be. A good Hecarim can, without question, hard carry games, and this is a champion that I don't want to face when fed because it really feels almost impossible to stop him. But we're finally making our way into the top 5 list, and the number 5 spot will be given to LeBlanc. So I will admit, I was partially wrong on this. I mean, back when LeBlanc was still in the PBE and I played her, I definitely thought she was strong, but of the 4 big changes, I thought she was probably the weakest, if not the second weakest beside Katarina. But after seeing her more and more on the live servers, and after a few changes happened to her on the PBE after I made my video, I have to say, well, she is a very strong champion. Just the fact that her E ability itself is already able to proc her passive, and just how well her passive even scales into the late game and the amount of damage it can do, this is a very scary champion. The biggest thing about LeBlanc to me is gotta be her laning phase and just Wing in. You can even miss a W if you really want to. As long as you land your E, you're probably gonna chunk them for half HP. Even her ultimate clone isn't really as bad as I thought it would be. There have been a few times where I faced a LeBlanc where they have legitimately confused me with what the hell they were doing, using their clones and using their abilities properly, and it was actually completely mind-boggling, and I was very impressed. So just having a lot of depth and the amount of things she can really do, on top of also being somewhat easy to play, again, just landing your E and watching them get chunked by half HP, LeBlanc is a very good champion at the very moment, and she can without question hard carry games if you roam and successfully snowball properly. And in the number 4 spot, we have Rengar, and this is where you're gonna slowly start to see a bit more assassins being mentioned. Now, I definitely thought Rengar was probably the strongest beside Talon of the 4 big assassin reworks, and I'm glad that I wasn't really wrong on that. I mean, Rengar is just, without question, insanely strong. His initial critical strike from his ultimate is usually enough to already probably kill an ADC, but worst comes to worst, you have your Q, you have your full combo which instantly generates 4 ferocity from your leap QWE into another empowered Q if you really want to just absolutely annihilate the face of a squishy champion. You can also stay camouflaged for a very long time, to the point where you have more than enough time to try and find the opening, but to be fair, the range at which it now tells you where Rengar is invisible and relatively close to your area is quite big, which is a good thing and a bad thing because sometimes it makes you feel like Rengar is right beside you when he's in fact actually not that close to you whatsoever. All in all, Rengar's clear isn't all that bad. He's pretty damn strong. His W empowered removing CC off of him is kind of questionable for an assassin, and he's a very strong champion. Definitely can hard carry games. Now moving our way into the top 3 part of this list, the first one we'll talk about in the number 3 spot is Vane. Vane has been, without question, absolutely notorious this patch. She has chunked people left and right. Her laning phase doesn't feel as bad as it should be. If you ever make a mistake against her in the laning phase, if you just mess up one time and you happen to give her a kill, consider your laning phase done and the game most likely over as well. But what really pushed her over the edge, what really made Vane just unbearably strong and just stupid, is the combination of the static shift or rapid fire cannon with an infinity edge rush and proccing that, especially if it crits with your Q. The damage on that was absolutely just, the fact that it existed for this long is just insane to me. I've literally gotten chunked by half HP from Vane's with just one Q ability with the static shift, lightning proc, and the crit. The fact that she can do that much damage, that much burst from one Q auto attack, which isn't even a skill shot, that only has, you know, maybe like a 3-second cooldown and she can redo it again, while also having fantastic consistent damage output, a lot of mobility and outplay potential, and also a true damage W passive, she's a very hard champion to deal with. Again, if you mess up against her, consider your game already finished. But speaking of a champion that can just dish out an insane amount of damage and also scale really well, Mid laner Cassiopeia. This is champion number 2. I bet a lot of people did not expect to see Cassiopeia on this list. Now the reason I put her here is because I truly feel like she has an insanely strong carry potential, and I'm sure a lot of people may be expected to see Syndra instead of Cassiopeia. But with Syndra getting nerfed next patch, I'm kind of just already thinking a little bit more ahead, and I feel like Cassiopeia is just gonna be the better choice. Her laning phase is insanely strong, her W has got to be one of the best abilities in League of Legends, period. And she just dishes out an obscene amount of damage. She scales really well, she has 6 AP items because her passive is just free boots that are actually even faster than most boots at level 18. So if you've been looking for a champion for the mid lane that you've kind of wanted to invest some time into and learn and just really hard carry games and be an absolutely ridiculously strong force, Cassiopeia is a good choice. And last but definitely not least, sitting in the number 1 spot, we have Khazix. So as I'm sure most of you know, my second role has been changed to maining jungle, so mid lane and jungle. And when it comes to playing a champion in the jungle, well, Khazix is without question my number 1 go-to. Not only because he fits my playstyle and I think he's really fun, but also because he's really strong. This guy is often banned or picked in almost every single game I play. Him, Lee Sin, Hecarim, Ivern, these are the guys that you almost always see in the jungle nowadays. But specifically with Khazix and even obviously someone like Hecarim, he's got some fantastic carry potential. This guy can gank very early, he's got those great resets, he's got a lot of damage, he can easily pick someone off and just burst them down with his isolated Q damage. Khazix is just fantastic in the current meta, he's great in the current jungle, and since jungle just being the role that has the most impact in solo queue for the first half of the game or so, well, it just makes sense that the number 1 champion is a jungler and is an assassin that has a lot of damage, has resets, and just overall brings that solid carry potential that you want from a champion when you're fed. Now just before we end off the video, there's 2 very quick honorable mentions. The first one being Zed. Now I feel like Zed is slowly making a comeback now that Bork Rush seems good on him, at least from my point of view, but I'm not 100% sure on this yet, and his win rate seems to be kind of questionable, so I kind of want to hold back on him and put him instead in the honorable mentions list. On top of this, we also have Master Yi, who I've solely lost games to just because of how fed he was and just how unstoppable he felt like, dealing almost 500 true damage to me in just half a second. So this guy is really hard to stop if fed, and he can without question hard carry games as well, but his win rate is also awfully low and it's really weird to me, so I wasn't really sure where to put him. I was gonna put him instead of Hecarim, but I thought, you know what, I think Hecarim is just a solid better pick overall, even though Master Yi can without question also hard carry games. But either way guys, that is about it for this video. If you did enjoy it, then let me know by hitting that like button. It goes without saying that there's definitely more than just these 10 or I guess somewhat 12 champions that I've mentioned, but for the sake of the video, you have to keep the list a little bit more concise. But I truly thank each and every one of you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to share this with your friends, subscribe if you haven't, and hope to see you for the next one. Peace.